Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for Disruptive Technologies, a view into what's coming. My name's Yazan Arroyo, and I'm the moderator for today's webinar. This event is part of a special industry series presented by Auxis in partnership with the FICPA. Auxis is a management consulting and outsourcing firm that creates value by enabling growth for its customers. At this point, I'd like to introduce our featured speaker with Auxis, Alvaro Prieto. Alvaro is the CIO and Senior VP of Managed Services for Auxis, where he leads our IT outsourcing and solutions practice. Alvaro diligently keeps up to date with emerging technologies and is focused on selecting and implementing the most cost-effective services and IT solutions to help clients grow their business. Before we begin, let me remind all participants that we welcome your questions. Please submit them in your webinar panel at any time. We'll address those questions at the conclusion of the webinar. Also, please watch for random polls, which are required to verify attendance for issuing the CPE credit. And with that, I'll turn it over to our speaker, Alvaro Prieto. Alvaro?
Thank you, Jasmine, and many thanks to all of you for attending this webinar today. I know it's lunchtime here in the United States on the eastern seaboard, so I appreciate you taking the time out of your lunch to join me here today. The purpose of this webinar is to take a look at future disruptive technologies and the potential that these technologies have to transform and advance our lives, organizations, and the global economy as a whole. Most of the information for this webinar came from a report that took many years to develop by hundreds of researchers around the world and was published by the McKinsey Global Institute about a year ago. I found this report extremely detailed, very well put together, and we've been in a few panels before that we've discussed this report and have found that many people have found it very interesting, and most people have actually taken it into consideration on their own organization and their lives, and has really opened a lot of eyes. So I'm hoping that today we can share this report and some other viewpoints that I have on the subject that is, I believe, is very important to me as a technology professional, and I hope it will be for you as well. So with that said, I wanted to let's start, and I'm hoping, like I said, this subject will spark your interest and hopefully will lead you to research more into the subject. At the end of the webinar, I also will provide the download link for the report, or you can send us an email, and we'll be happy to provide you with the full report for your reading. So let's start. So just a couple of things that kind of put things in perspective just in the last minute. So just since we started the webinar or so, there's been about 240 emails sent. The average right now in the whole world is about 42 emails per day per person that is being sent. A lot of these technologies that we're going to be discussing and a lot of these facts that I'm going to share here with you really are fueled by a lot of these disruptive technologies that we're going to be talking about. But 61,000 hours of Pandora listened in the last minute, and these are some kind of factoids that I have collected over the last year or so, but so I'm sure these numbers are probably higher today. The number of photo views in Flickr, tweeting, of course, is becoming a major thing. 6 million views or so, and almost 250,000 logins into Facebook. So that's just in 1 minute. The number of searches in Google. So right now, you know, this information is being accessed from anywhere, from any device. This is something that was not really available at all less than 10 years ago, and the amount of traffic and information that is being shared today is just mind-boggling. Now, one thing I like to say also is that in the last minute, the United States is playing Germany on the World Cup. So for some of you that are soccer fans, I do really appreciate you in the webinar, because this is obviously a huge game for the U.S., and I'm all pulling for them. So hopefully we'll provide you with a quick update on the game as we go. So it's no surprise to see that technology has been a major factor for innovation and have fueled the economic growth of pretty much of the whole world. If you look at into this graph, from the beginning of times almost, where the printing press came in around 250, and it started really fueling some of the economic growth in back in the day. But if you go through the second industrial revolution, where we have the internal combustion engine developed in the 1800s, things have really spiked up in a pretty much exponential way. And now with the internet being pretty much what I believe it is, similar to the internal combustion engine, which is mostly the digital age, as we call it, this exponential growth is just going to be, I think, much higher than it has ever been. And we're going to be probably experiencing over the next 10 years something that probably nobody has ever seen before in terms of how technology is going to impact our lives, our businesses, and the global economy. And a lot of the report in the McKinsey report is really all about that. It's about really looking into the next 10 years and some of the key technologies that are out there that not necessarily are related to a personal device, but mostly technologies that will impact a lot of manufacturing systems, a lot of the way that we live, and that's what we're going to be looking at. So the technology cycles also are going moving a lot faster than in the past. I mean, since the 1960s, when the first IBM, the ENIAC mainframe came up, they have been kind of every 10 years or so, there has been some major breakthrough in terms of the type of technologies that we have been dealing with. But what we've seen, or what if you look into what the researchers are looking into, is that these cycles are speeding up in pretty much a year to year. I don't know if you will see here on 2014 the wearable computing devices that came out. These are bracelets that people are wearing these days that pretty much are tracking all sorts of information. I was just happy to watch an Apple commercial last night that basically was showing these different devices that people are wearing and how they're transmitting information into their iPhones for how many steps they climb and how many laps they swim on a pool. So these are all type of things that this technology was just not available 3 years ago. Last year, as a matter of fact, these wearable devices became the #1 seller for Christmas. And if you were looking for these devices around that time, it was very difficult to find a Jawbone or a Nike Fuel Band or things like that. But the point is that these technologies are just more than what you think. I mean, these technologies are real sensors, and we're going to be discussing how these sensors are going to be, the economic impact of these sensors will have to just our lives and in general to the global economy. But the cycles are really getting very, very quick. So it's almost a year after year that we're going to see technologies that are going to start revolutionizing our lives. And this is one of the things that we're going to be looking into in the next few slides. So this leads me right now, Jasmine mentioned that we're going to be doing a poll. So we're going to launch our first poll, and I'm going to give you, you're going to see some questions on your screen, and I'm just going to give you about a few seconds for you to answer. So go ahead, Jasmine.
Okay, I've gone ahead and launched the poll, so we'll give everyone a few seconds to answer.
So far, no goals in the Germany-US game.
Okay, the poll has been closed and sharing the results.
Great.
And Alvaro, looks like 0% answered 100 million, 80% answered 750 million, 0% answered 1 billion, and 20% answered 1.75 billion.
Great. Well, congratulations to the ones that answered 1.75 billion. That is the approximate number of smartphones that are pretty much in the market this year. They're expected to be in the market this year. So that is obviously a fifth of the world population. And one of the things that we're going to be looking to in a few slides is how the potential for these technologies to grow from 1.5 billion or 1.7 billion today to about 5 billion potentially by the end of next year. So there's going to be a huge explosion in the use of these mobile devices, as we're going to see in a few. So as a matter of fact, this slide really shows you what is going on with these mobile devices. This is basically a slide that shows how tablets have surpassed the PC and notebook shipments, right, in less than 3 years. So if you know, PCs have been around since the 1980s, and the tablets basically shipments for all, if you take all the PCs and notebooks together, surpass all of those shipments in less than 3 years. So that gives you the rapid adoption that these devices have had, and they're expecting to continue. So as a matter of fact, most of the projections are that the desktop and notebook PCs most likely are going to be disappearing over the next 5 to 8 years. There may not be any more desktops as we know them, and it will be pretty much tablets that are going to be the mode of operation for most organizations and personal use. So with that, if you look into this other slide, just to show you how, the tablets are moving a lot faster in terms of adoption, 3 times faster than the adoption of the iPhones. That gives you an idea that these tablets are going to be very much, what we are going to be using for many years to come. And a lot of the information that is being delivered by a lot of the technologies that we're going to be looking at are going to be, using tablets basically as a mode, as a mechanism to view, or to access those specific technologies. So, anyway, let's talk about what these disruptive technologies really mean. I just look at Wikipedia, and basically what it means is basically an innovation that will create a new market or a value network, displacing earlier technologies. From a McKinsey report perspective, and the ways the researchers figured out how to pick these 12 technologies as the number of technologies that they looked at, they actually contemplated about 100 different technologies, and they brought it down to 12, and went and did a lot of different facts and economic impact that they calculated for these technologies to have, and that's one of the things that they narrowed down to these 12. So one of the things that are key to these disruptive technologies is obviously that they're rapidly advancing and they're going through major breakthroughs. The scope of these technologies is huge. I mean, we're not talking a localized kind of impact. We're talking worldwide impact, massive amount of people that will be impacted by the technology, and the value is equally big. We are talking, and you'll see in the next few slides, that the impact of these technologies is in the trillions of dollars. And they have done their calculations, and these are all very smart people, way smarter than I am, that have put together these type of research materials, which I believe is from very, very reliable sources. And the economic impact is disruptive for the global economy, meaning that the way people work, the way people live, the way the global economy, the actual societies and governments looked at these technologies, they will have to change policy. Most likely, they will have to come up with different ways to govern and manage this technology. That if it is, obviously, like everything, if it's in the wrong hands of someone or a government, that could be obviously something of significant impact. And there will be a few examples of that I will share with you next. So now let's take a look at some of the things that these technologies have done, from an impact perspective, just to give you an idea. I mean, the fastest supercomputer that I had some slides in the past cost $5 million, right, at the time to develop, and right now, the iPhone, for what, $400 has the same performance. So that's something that it is impactful. I mean, the 2 to 3 million people accessing the internet by 2025 is another. I think that it is pretty much a sure thing that is going to happen. Now, one of the technologies that is targeting is the automation of work, and that is something they call it the automation of knowledge work, and we're going to be looking into that in more detail. But there is a 5 to 7 trillion, in impact that this automation of technology, this automation means to the global workforce. These are specific things related to, artificial intelligence and robotics in some ways, and we'll have some examples of that to share with you. But one other one that is very interesting and caught my attention, and I've been actually looking into it for some time, is the Human Genome Project. And the Human Genome Project, as it shows here, it took $2.7 billion to develop in 13 years. And this, until they finally decoded the human genome. And right now, or their potential here for the genome is to basically cost about $100 and 1 hour to sequence your human genome. This has a huge impact to the healthcare industry and many things in terms of our lives. I mean, we have the potential to be able to identify a specific issue with a specific cell of your body that will be transmitted to your iPhone if you have a problem with a cell in your body, and have very specific medicine targeted just for that cell. So that has a huge impact that we don't know exactly how that's going to be, but if that kind of information is provided and there's target medicine to that specific issue, the impact is that obviously we're going to be able to hopefully live a lot longer than we live right now. So that obviously has a major impact. The other thing is the 300,000. I don't know if you all know about the Google car, or the autonomous car. This is one of the disruptive technologies that are being that were in the report. But the Google car has driven already 300 or so thousand miles without there were only one accident that was caused by one of the engineers that was programming this car. But if these cars are put into the streets and avoiding the problem of having accidents, which are mostly caused by people, so we are the ones causing these accidents. These cars have potentially the ability to avoid a lot of these accidents, and have obviously people be more safer on the streets, ideally. So anyway, so with that, I mean, these are just some representations of some of the things that these technologies can have, and also the advances that have occurred with technology being obviously cheaper, faster, and better. So we have another poll here, so as part of our requirements, so I'm just going to let Jasmine launch the poll, please.
Okay, well, go. It's been launched. Let's wait a few seconds.
Great. All right.
Okay, let me go ahead and close and share the results. Okay, and here are the answers for the second poll. 33% answered 5,000, 33% answered 10,000, and 33% answered 50,000. 0% answered 100,000.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so wow, That's surprising. And so the answer actually, which nobody got it right, it's 100,000. So this is the number of 3D printers that are priced less than 100,000 that will be sold this year around the world. 3D printing, it's a huge, huge disruptive technology, has tremendous impact, and we're going to be looking into that into very specific detail. But one of the things that at 3D printing, we think printing just it is just something that is on your desk or in your office or things like that. But 3D printing, it goes beyond that. Right now, 3D printers are being used to actually build houses, which is something that you go by, like it takes you by in terms of what do you mean that they're building a house with a printer. And if you actually go into YouTube and Google or search for a 3D printing house, you're going to see the process that they're using. It was, I believe, in Israel, where they have a printer that obviously is pretty big, that actually can put a house or build a house in less than 24 hours. And you can actually see the video how this printer works. Instead of ink, obviously, is pouring is pouring the cement, some very interesting material, and it basically can put together the house in that time. So it's pretty amazing if we think about the potential impact of being able to do these type of things, especially for low-income families, especially for underdeveloped countries that the housing is rare and scarce and expensive. So very interesting technology as well. So now let's take a look at these technologies one at a time, and then hopefully we'll have some questions at the end, and you learn a few things here. So one of the key technologies that is being looked at is the mobile internet. I mean, in just a few years, internet-enabled portable devices have gone from being a luxury for a few to a way of life for more than 1 billion people today that own smartphones and tablets. It's almost 1.2 billion that own a tablet as of the beginning of this year. Just in the United States alone, right, an estimated 30% or so of the web browsing and the social media is all done on a mobile device. By 2015, just wireless web use was expected to exceed, wire use. So this is something that obviously it shows how fast this technology is evolving. But the most amazing thing is really the potential economic impact that these technologies have, which is, I'm just going to go through the technologies first, and then I'm going to share with you the actual economic impact that these technologies have. So we'll just go through these first and just provide you with pretty much what it is. So the automation and knowledge work, I mentioned this earlier. These are intelligent solutions that use actually artificial intelligence. I went to college over 20 years ago, and back in the day we were actually playing with artificial intelligence in college through programming kind of labs, but it was very rudimentary, and it was not really where obviously it needed to be. It was really very much in the early stages, but there were some things that were being done where you can have some speech, and this was 20 years ago. We had it in our university, where you can actually talk to the computer, and it will basically give you some basic commands. Obviously, it was very rudimentary, but this technology has evolved. It has never stopped or went away. It actually kept going, and now is basically replacing a lot of what people can do. If you go to a call center today, if you call any airline today, you'll find that you're never going to see a person or hear a person unless you absolutely have to. But for most of the most of the common tasks that can be automated, this is where the automation of knowledge work technology really have a tremendous impact. The Internet of Things, and we talked about this earlier with the wearable bracelets, These are low-cost sensors and actuators that collect data, monitor, and make decisions. It's going to be, this is one of the technologies out of all the technologies in the report that has the highest, the biggest economic impact of all, because they're talking about having trillions of these sensors spread out all over the world, delivering lots of information on real time to be able to do, something with that. So obviously that's going to create the whole thing, and this is not a technology in the report, but there's a technology called big data. I don't know if some of you may be familiar with that, but big data obviously collects, billions of information, millions of records, and can actually come up with an optimization or deliver specific answers to something that most human beings can process on their brains, so through algorithm technology and things like that. So that is going to become even more important in the next few years as you have all of these sensors delivering a huge amount of information for everything that you do and everything that a machine does. Obviously, a lot of this information is going to be sent to somewhere, and this is where potentially the cloud is going to become even bigger than what it already is. Most companies today are looking at the cloud as a way to, reduce their risk, minimize some of their processing costs. But as you know, big companies like Amazon and Google and Microsoft, they have put together or building and continue building these huge, massive data centers that spread out around the world to basically collect information and process information in a massive way. So they are preparing for the future. Obviously, Microsoft made a $6 billion investment, and that's obviously not a big investment, but it is significant in their data centers and they continue to invest on this so they can gather data and process data. And a lot of these things is being done because they know that a lot of the technology is going to need a place to reside and more importantly a place to be processed, especially when you have trillions of devices collecting information. The other one is the robotics technology. It's been kind of always been around, and it seems like a cool idea for most people. On the manufacturing industry, it is a way of operating for most advanced manufacturing facilities around the world. For FedEx, obviously, for sorting their packages, it's all done through robots in most cases, and building cars, obviously, that's been one of the kind of the things that most people know about robotics. But robotics now are just basically the technology has just exploded, and not only has exploded, but the ability to acquire a robot today is a lot cheaper than it's ever been. It used to be a robot that used to be $300,000-$400,000 just to buy. That same robot is less than $40,000 today. There's an event here in Miami where I am right now where it was called Emerge Americas. It was a technology kind of hub. I don't know if anybody of you attended it, but there was a series of robots that were on a soccer field, and these robots were actually playing soccer. Now it's appropriate for the World Cup, but they were playing soccer, and I was just amazed about the dexterity and the actual intelligence that these robots had, just looking at them and how easy they were moving. They were not moving in the kind of jerky kind of way that these robots move, but it was moving very much like a natural way. And these robots were fairly inexpensive as well, and easy to acquire. So a lot of these things, robots are going to potentially change many things just beyond the manufacturing capabilities that they have today at a much cheaper cost, and I have some examples of that. And the other one is the autonomous devices. These are just not, cars. These relate to a lot of the drone technology that you've seen the U.S. government using that has reduced, cost and saved a lot of lives. But the car has got the biggest potential economic impact in terms of having, these cars that are going to avoid a lot of the accidents that occurred by humans, and they're actually going to potentially be very inexpensive. The Google car, they're talking about having a fully electric car, fully autonomous, for less than $20,000. So that's kind of what I've been able to gather. I'm not sure if that's going to be what they're going to come up with, but they know the technology is there to be able to drive a car, without human intervention. That technology is working today, and it will be just in a few years, that's going to be pretty much on the marketplace. The genomics piece is what we discussed a little bit about the Human Genome Project, and this is about the ability to decode, right, your human gene, your gene, into a sequencing device, and having basically the ability to analyze all that information and provide with a specific solution to, what it sees or the symptoms that something is going on. And that, obviously, the impact is tremendous, especially for the healthcare industry. Energy storage is another technology that it's getting much better. Batteries, as you all know, the lithium batteries have made a huge, impact to the economies around the world, and has fueled a lot of businesses to come up with technologies that now you can carry on your pocket, and without having to, bring it to a very small size and give you a lasting time without recharging. So these technologies obviously are very important for cars, very important for for pretty much anything that moves, that without needing to recharge these kind of devices or machines. And then 3D printing, is something that also is changing industries. We actually have been in a project to develop a prototype for one of our customers, and this prototype, in the past, talking to the engineers, would have cost a couple of $100,000 to develop, but they use 3D printing, and this is a manufacturing facility in China that was able to put together the prototype, a fully working prototype done on a 3D printing, and the prototype was less than $15,000. So what does that mean is that you're going to be able to get a lot more things faster to the market. A lot of ideas are going to be developed by this printing. So it's making a significant difference in the manufacturing industry, as it always does, a lot of these technologies. But like I mentioned to you earlier about the construction industry being impacted by 3D printing, is very, very relevant and is very real. The other area that is very interesting and is happening as we speak is the ability for doctors to actually print a human part. So artificial parts are being put together by 3D printings that will fit the specific needs of their patients. And this is also another technology that is impacting the healthcare industry, and it's going to have a tremendous implications, when you have a limb or a specific organ sometimes that may need to be reproduced or developed, and without waiting for huge labs to do this and a lot of time, it could be done pretty much right there in the hospital. So that is a huge potential opportunity and impact that these kind of technologies may have. The other one is the advanced materials. There's an amazing amount of growth and development on materials that are super, they're light, they're super strong, and they have an amazing amount of conductivity. So one of the most relevant ones that most people will associate with is with clothing. They are putting together, there's a material, it's called neoprene, that is used in clothing where you, for example, if you have a stain on, you'll never stain any of your shirts. And if you're like me, I'll stain shirts, especially white shirts, all the time. I have a stain on pens and things like that. Well, these technologies, because of the it's a nanotechnology kind of that is behind the scenes, that is into the material. If you get a spot on your body, on your shirt, I'm sorry, you can easily clean it with your finger. You'll just rub your finger over it, and the spot is not there anymore. So those are kind of some things that they're talking about. Shirts that will never, you basically ever have to watch them, to have to put it through the washing machines, because they get cleaned with, they don't absorb any of your body heat or body odors and things like that. So that can have some potential impact on it, but it's used a lot, obviously, in the oil industry, and I have some examples of that. And this is another thing that is also amazing about what is going on in the oil and gas industry in terms of the ability to recover and extract materials from the earth. A lot of things that are being done in horizontal drilling, for example, the way that they're exploring very unconventional kind of materials and being able to extract this at very low cost has the potential, of reducing, the cost of oil potentially in the future. And renewable energy, it's always been a technology that has tremendous hopes, because of the cost of solar power is less and less expensive now to acquire, although it's going to take some years to get it to the cost of a kilowatt per hour as we know it today. But there's a lot of developments into the ability to conserve and renew this kind of energy. So what I wanted to do now is to show you a little bit of share with you some of the impact of these technologies have from an economic perspective. I ranked them from the highest potential economic impact to the lowest, and this is straight from the report. So like I mentioned earlier, the Internet of Things are these sensors that can be connected to the Internet that are capturing information on real-time basis. But if you look at here, and these are the outlook for the next 10 years, actually almost to 2025, is to have 1 trillion devices that will be connected to the Internet. So right now there's over 11 billion devices, according to the research that is out there, that are operating out on the world, right? But if you look at the huge amount of growth that this could trigger, it's mind-boggling. I mean, especially because, as you see here, 80 to 90% there's been a decline on these microelectromechanical systems that are the ones that are embedded into these sensors. So that, if you start thinking about it, machine-to-machine communication, this M2M kind of connectivity is going to be, a very, very real thing. I mean, I don't know if you've seen, if you drive around these days, they're plugging or they're putting a lot of sensors on the streets to see how many cars are going, how fast they're going, obviously to figure out the traffic jams and things like that. This information is, reporting on real time to different screens about how long is it taking you to go from one point A to point B on a highway. So obviously that saves time and money if you know that you need to avoid X, Y, or Z kind of traffic to get to your destination faster, reduces the amount of gas that you're using on your car. So things like that have obviously potential, a huge potential impact of just, increasing productivity, awareness, making decisions faster by obviously understanding this massive amount of data. But they estimated that the potential impact of all of the different, industries that they see these being affected or this impacting the most is over $36 trillion. I mean, that is much bigger than almost, obviously, a lot of the global economy combined. So it is an amazing impact, and in the report, and I obviously encourage you to go and read this report so you can see specifically how it's impacting the manufacturing, the healthcare, and the mining industries, these specific technologies. The second technology that is, has the highest economic, or potentially the biggest economic impact, is the mobile internet. So we talked about, the growth from this technology earlier, the number of people that are going to be connected to the internet. So the 4.3 billion estimate is the number of people that they expected to be connected over the next 10 years to the internet. So with about a billion of those, being, transaction or interaction, what they call interaction workers, which is about 40% of the global workforce, that they will be using these devices as a way to do their work every single day. So this is what I mentioned earlier about replacing laptops and desktops. I think we're going to be laughing in about 5 or 7 years about, when we were using these massive laptops and big screens and things like that on our computer in front of our desk, and who knows what kind of health benefits those things have to us, and also not only that piece, but also when you recycle these devices, it creates a lot of waste, and it's bad for the environment. But these mobile devices are just something that is transforming really the way that we work and live today. So the other one, in terms of impact, from a highest to the lowest in terms of impact, is the 3D printing. So if you looked into it, the price for a 3D printer today is 90% less than it was 4 years ago. When you have a 3D printing at your disposal, I mean, basically the sky's the limit to be able to do things like, for example, you'll be able to print in your house. I mean, I'm just coming up with some idea in terms of you can print anything. You can print your pots and pans, if you have the right, technology for that. But the ability to print anything is going to be available to all of us. And that would just be fueled only by imagination in terms of what you can do with these type of things. Toys, the toy manufacturing industry is going to be impacted quite a bit, where you can print the toys for your own kids. So you just, instead of going and buying the toy at the store, you'll buy the actual application that can print the toy at home. And that's what you'll be buying, and what the toy manufacturing industry is looking into it as a way to deliver these toys on demand, as they call it. And so that saves obviously transportation costs all over the world. You name it. The impact of that is tremendous. The one that I was very excited about is on the construction industry. And once again, I think that the implications of being able to print or develop a house that quickly, it is something that is just far-reaching in terms of impact that we probably can imagine today. So the other one is here from automation of knowledge work, and this is what we discussed in terms of the ability to automate a lot of what most routine tasks or most linear kind of decisions need to be made by a human being. If you think about it, the easiest one is the folks on the call centers, which is millions of people that work in call centers today, and that could be those folks could be displaced by a lot of these technologies. Matter of fact, after we're done with this webinar, I'm talking to a company up in New York that is in the robotic or in this business, and we're actually looking to see if we can use that technology for some of the call centers that we have. But the automation of this technology and the automation knowledge is pretty much there today, and obviously once you can pretty much use it as a standard at a very low cost, the next thing is to start really using more the artificial intelligence to do very unstructured kind of decision making using big data that potentially will be on the back end of these systems. So the total impact of just these 4 technologies, as I have here, is 165 trillion. I mean, that is just tremendous to see that there's this value can be derived in just 10 years. And that's what is just so incredible about it. It's not just the technology, it's really the impact that this technology have that is one of the things that I want to leave you with the most, for you to start thinking about how can you actually take advantage of these technologies. I have two sons, and I talk to them about this, not that they care too much when they're the 10 to 15-year-olds, but the 15-year-old is getting interested on it because this is some of the things that these technologies for sure will impact his life and may impact the decisions that he would make in terms of what industries he's going to go into. You know, hopefully he will go through college and get into some of these, be exposed to these type of technologies. But we talk about robotics. A lot of these robotics is really impacting the manufacturing workers. But also, you know, if you look at here, a lot of the technologies that we're discussing have an impact into healthcare. The healthcare impact is one of the things that is very much, you know, impacted out of all of these technologies, especially with the Genome Project. Obviously, robots, now you see doctors performing surgeries more precisely, a lot faster, with less errors, which reduces healthy, you know, healthcare insurance costs and so on, the malpractice issues that they've been dealing with in the last 20, 15 years, really. And they can do it remotely. You have a doctor that is sitting on his desk or his office and is performing a surgery across the world. And that is something that is happening just as we speak. And this is only done because of the robotics technology has evolved to where it is right now. So the genomics piece is, I mentioned, we discussed it, is just the ability to be able to, you know, transmit information that you have, you know, you can go to your own house or your own desk, and less than an hour you can decode your genome to see if there's something that is unusual, you know, on your body. So, you know, if your signature, which is about I think it's over 2 billion data points, is the genome made out of. So, you know, the machine will be able to decode that 2 billion pieces of information in less than an hour and provide you with something that is just not right. So this is going at the cell level of your body, and is obviously more proactive, you know, preventive, you know, than reactive. So you'll be able to see or alert your phone, if you will, if you have, or your tablet in this case, since it's the biggest growth, that you have a potential issue with something. That information will be transmitted to your doctor. Potentially at that point, some sort of robot or automated machine will look at that information, figure out what it is that you may have an issue with, and then, you know, provide you with a very specific targeted medicine that you would need. Now, one of the biggest potential impacts of this technology is really the ability to detect cancer at the early stages. Which is obviously, you know, there's 26 million deaths, as you see here on the screen, that are basically, you know, produced by this terrible disease. But now with this type of technology, you know, early detection will be pretty much something that everybody can afford and will be able to have access to, which obviously do prevent a lot of people from dying. And the cloud technology is growing. I have another webinar on cloud technologies that we've done in the past, and I'm very on top of this technology, as if you will. But this technology is definitely here to stay. I see anything but growth in this area. A lot of our customers and organizations that we talk to, they all are moving into the cloud or using some sort of cloud technology, and this is just the early stages. I mean, we're just going to be seeing massive, you know, amount of information being stored in these data centers around the world, and massive amount of processing that would be able to be delivered from these data centers. So the amount of analytics and information that we're going to be able to be reviewing and looking at, and on just the ability to process that kind of data and gives us, you know, information that we can hopefully improve our lives and the way that we work. And then the car, you know, the impact, you know, from this technology is, you know, there's $4 trillion in the automobile industry in revenue today. So there's a huge potential here to really disrupt, you know, the automobile industry as we know it. But also, you know, like I mentioned on drone technology, there's about 450,000 airplanes, civilian and military airplanes out there. So these devices could potentially be, you know, replaced, you know, by these technology where they will be self-driven or you know, be flown without the need of a pilot. There's been a lot of different initiatives by the U.S. government, for example, to automate the way that air traffic controllers really manage airplanes, as well as automate airplanes where they can pretty much land by themselves. That technology has actually been around for a long time. I'm a pilot, so I know that technology has been around for a long time. But the biggest thing is with the drones and replacing the you know, these type of pilots that you know, die in this when they go into these military operations, and it's actually a lot cheaper than that. I don't know if you've seen 60 Minutes about 2 months ago with the drone technology and these different devices that are being produced for home use, where people are using basically to take pictures and so on. But this technology is just exploding and basically helping, you know, fuel different economies, you know, by the use of this drone technology. And then the renewable energy, talking about, you know, pretty much the cost for the amount of use of energy, which is no surprise to anybody. But the growth of solar technology is just exploding as well. I mean, it's a lot of industries, especially outside of the U.S., solar technology is used a lot more than we think. That is lowering the cost, obviously, of consumption, and is obviously cleaner and much better for the environment, as we all know it. So, but the key thing here is this the reduction, you know, of the cost of actually storing solar power and actually wind energy as well. So those are some of the things that, I mean, I know there's a lot of numbers here. There's a lot of different areas to look into, and you can just spend a whole hour just talking specifically about technology. My purpose today was just really to share with you these type of things that are out there that are already researched. There's a lot of different governments, companies, and individuals really looking into these technologies and taking advantage of these technologies. The economies are changing because of these technologies, and that's what's so important about it. I'm not going to go through in detail on this, but this is just a grid just to show you the impact and the implications, you know, that these technologies have. So we have the 12 technologies here. The blue areas really show, you know, the primary impact of these technologies. So, for example, if you look at the just implications for individuals and societies, these are categorized into the implications for individuals like you and I, and then the implications for organizations and implications for governments. So because these disruptive technologies obviously, you know, have broad reach of impacting those three segments of the population. So if you look at mobile technology, I mean, the primary impact, as no surprise, is just changes the patterns of consumption, right? Well, that just creates, that's a huge impact to that. And then for organization, it creates new products and services. Obviously, if people are consuming more, organization obviously can deliver services and products a lot faster to those folks that are using those technologies. Who would ever thought that we were going to be buying just a song out of an album, and download it in less than a few seconds, just, even 10 years ago or even 8 years ago. That was something nobody thought about that can be done. But that has completely changed the music industry as we know it with the App Store and so on. So that's just a perfect example of how that works. And, from a government perspective, same technology will drive economic growth and productivity. So it has, implications across the board for those different three segments. But anyway, so I'm just, obviously I'm not going to go through every single technology and their impact, but this is just to illustrate and show you the kind of, research and thought that has been put together behind these technologies and the impact that they have. So if you look into a lot farther like I have, you'll see that there's very specific things or specific technologies, specifically the mobile internet and the Internet of Things. Those are two technologies. The first three actually here, the mobile, the automation of knowledge work, and the Internet of Things. If you take a look at those three technologies and do a little more research on it, it will open your eyes in more ways than you think, because you're going to start thinking ways that you can, for example, and this is just a personal comment of mine, is you look into the companies that are behind this technology today. Just from a stock market perspective, there's a lot of, I'm not a stock market and I'm not advocating investment in these areas, but that's just obviously your personal decision. But there is these technologies and the companies behind it are just, are growing at an exponential rate, and most people don't know about these companies, who they are. And I'm talking about the companies that make the chips and make the actual technology. Very interesting movement in terms of what they're doing, and that's just some of the things that you learn from this report, even just from our own personal perspective. But more importantly, it's about the total impact that these technologies may have. So anyway, the bottom line is, we know the world is changing and very rapidly. These technologies really are the ones fueling a lot of that change. If you start thinking about it, anything that you think about from a technology perspective is going to be, addressed, by these technologies. Obviously, technology is more critical, and is going to become more critical as we go. The companies that really cannot adapt or use or be prepared to take on those technologies most likely are going to be left behind, are going to have some significant competitive disadvantage over the other ones that use it, and that's very real, But every technology has, advantages and risks. I mean, so what you want to make sure is that, you're careful about it and evaluate how these technologies are going to impact you and what you really need to be doing pretty much today to be prepared for that change. And last but not least, organizations now are being challenged more than ever to drive innovation and transformation. And these technologies are truly transformational and give you, the innovation that, if you look at the first slide that we discussed in terms of what's fueling, the growth in GDP per capita, has always been driven by technology and innovation. But we have something right in front of us that I don't think I've been in technology for now 25 plus years. I have never seen that many, all those technologies coming together in the way that is happening right now. So I'm very excited about the future, about what's coming. It's going to be, a little bit chaotic in some ways because the adoption is going to be very fast. Just think about if Google comes with their autonomous car and you see cars now on the streets driving by themselves, where most people are going to start looking into it, and potentially, a lot of those things are going to be out there. But the adoption will be very, very quick. So these are things that we're going to have the opportunity to experience over the next 10 years. And my hope was today just to kind of open your eyes, if you will, a little bit about it. Encourage you very much to go to the report. Here's the link to the report. It's a very, it's a lengthy report. It's I don't know, it's about 150 pages that you can look into, and hopefully share with your peers and your friends, and that kind of give them a heads up about what is really coming up and what's behind it. So with that said, I just want to open the floor for any type of Q&As. And Jocelyn, any questions?
Yes, Alvaro, we have a question from one of our participants. Which industries will be impacted the most by 3D printing?
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
It is, which industries will be impacted the most by 3D printing?
Well, one of the industries that I see impacted in that area really is obviously the manufacturing industry being impacted tremendously by that technology. I think that even the Gartner folks have been behind this and have been very vocal about it, and they are the ones that are taking the advantage the most by that technology today. Any questions?
Okay, we have another question here. Do you see cloud computing replacing a company's physical data center by the year 2020, much like what happened when electrical power plants last century?
So replacing absolutely. I mean, right now, if I said this before, in terms of companies really moving their operating loads or their computing needs or processing needs to the cloud, it's happening, and we're just in the early stages of this. I mean, let's say it's in the last 3 years or so that cloud became a key term in the technology industry. But now the advances that are going on at these data centers that are being put together by the big players like Amazon and Google and so on, that is really driving costs for computing processing power for computing very low. So that's really making more economical sense. The security is behind it. They're building incredible security behind these data centers. So I don't see that being. I see companies easily making the migration by 2020 to these massive data centers and operations. So absolutely, I see that happening without a doubt. So anyway, any other questions?
Looks like there's no other.
So with that said, I just wanted
questions.
No?
No other questions.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Very good. All right, well, with that said, I wanted to thank you all for your time this afternoon. Hoping that you can I'll share with you some of interesting topics that spark some interest on your side. And if you have any questions or is there anything I can do to help, my email is here, my phone number, and look forward to hopefully share with you some other interesting topics in the future. So with that said, thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thank you, Alvaro, and to all of our participants for joining us today. Please watch for our follow-up email with the replay link along with a copy of this presentation. Also, please, if you would take a moment to complete our brief exit survey, and on behalf of Auxis and the team at FICPA, we thank you again and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks.